Hello and welcome to another edition of Blind Eye Live, a special Wednesday edition of Blind Eye Live. I hope y'all are doing well today. I really am going to try and keep this one sort of short. But yeah. So, I kind of short my intro. Usually I'm like, what's up? It's Blind Eye, Hunter King, owner, propriety, Blind Eye Media, whatever. If you've been listening, you know the drill. So today, quick show, just gonna be NFL draft stuff, most likely. I might pull up, ESPN here in a, maybe check a couple headlines. Some stuff I just want to quickly get out of the way. There was a trade today. The Panthers have traded Teddy Bridgewater to the Denver Broncos for a 6th round pick, which I would say it finalizes that Denver is not taking a quarterback like I've expected. Now, some people are using this as a means to say that Carolina now might draft a quarterback. I don't see that either. Or at least I wouldn't, because I believe in Sam Darnold. All you're going to do is basically tell Sam Darnold that, hey, we're drafting this guy. You're going to have to beat him out. Not like, because if it's close, they're going to eventually go with the other guy. He would have to dominate the competition and be really good this year. So, for me, you stick with Darnold. You get weapons. You get a Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle at number 8. Or if somehow he's there, Kyle Pitts at number 8. And you draft an offensive tackle in round 2. And then do whatever with the rest of the draft. Maybe you draft a corner in round 2. But I think there's plenty of good corners, plenty of good offensive linemen, but I say focus on your young quarterback. With that being said, Denver gets a better option to compete with Drew Lock than what they already had on their roster. Bridgewater doesn't have any guaranteed money on his deal after this year anyway, which I doubt they would be taking the guaranteed money. Like, Carolina's taking like the guaranteed hit here for an extra late round pick, I would assume. Unless Denver's maybe taking a little bit of money. I don't know. But at the very least, they're taking his base salaries, whatever. I don't think Bridgewater will be on the team next year unless he took like a massive pay cut. This is just they're doing this to bring him into camp to push. They are trying to push Drew Lock with real competition. So there's that. And hopefully for Drew Lock, his receiving options stay healthy this year and his top 2 guys don't get hurt and miss most or all of the season. So, but yeah. So, yesterday I read through an article about kind of what Todd McShay was hearing. I've seen another one today that I started reading that we might go through, but that'll be the last thing to do, and that depends on how quickly I get through other stuff. Because I really want today's show to be kind of quick because I have some things I need to do. I just had more time today than I usually would on a Wednesday. So, I guess the first thing I'll get into, let's get into the guys that I feel like I have probably been wrong about or I haven't given enough time. Because that's part of it. I have been really low on Andre Cisco and Afiti Melifonwu. Or Ifiatu Melifonwu. I'm still not getting there on Melifonwu necessarily. Now, I think my judgment was a little bit clouded. The well was poisoned by his older brother Obi, who is an insane athlete out of the University of Connecticut. 6'4", 225, ran like a 4.4 flat 40 or something like that, had like a 42, 43, 44-inch vertical. I mean, it was stupid how athletic Obi was. Although he was viewed mostly as a safety, I think he went to the Patriots and like they converted him to corner, like a press coverage corner. But I mean, he stuck around for a few years, but he was never good. I would say he was never even like solid. So I see Ifeatu Melifonwu and I see, ridiculous athleticism. He's 6'2", but his tape is way better than Obi. Like, he does know how to play football to a degree. He's still learning, but this guy is a pretty good off-coverage guy. I could see someone taking him in the late second round. Now, there's some people like Brett Coleman really high on him. He's like, I don't think he's going to go there, but he has the talent to go first round. I don't know. I mean, because there's so many talented corners, and there's guys whose tape I like way better. But you do have to love that Ifeatu will take on anyone. This guy chucks receivers out of the way in the screen game and playing the run, and you'd almost think he was an undersized linebacker. The way he plays, once the ball is in someone's hands, when he's coming downfield at ball carriers, he attacks, and you love to see that, especially from the corner position. And he's a long, athletic, rangy corner who is, so far, his best skill is his off coverage in zone and man coverage. And that's not necessarily easy to be good and effective at, but he's got great length. This guy could fit in a lot of different systems. And actually, based on his physicality and off coverage ability, he probably fits in any system. He's still got to be coached up, but it's a quality player. And I definitely I could see him going late, maybe even mid-second round, but I'd say late second round. But I was like, this guy is at best like a mid-third round guy. I didn't like, or I'll say this, I didn't have him in my top 100. And the same with his teammate, safety Andre Cisco. So I'm trying to finish out, watching what I would consider to be enough, like, scrounging up enough, like, tape or, like, game film, or just watching games and finding highlights or where people have cut together, like, full games for different players. Cisco's really good. He didn't have a pro day workout because he's recovering from a torn ACL he suffered in November. Just a little bit of a red flag. But so many people suffer ACLs at this point and come back. Like, I'm not terrified of that. I'm far more worried about Caleb Farley's back condition. Even though, like, it's got an 80-20 rate. I know what that 20% looks like, though. And since he's already had this done twice, I think it's probably higher likelihood that this isn't going away. Like, I think he's a higher risk of being in that 20%. So, but with Cisco, ACL, you give him, which luckily for him it wasn't in the off-season program like what happened with Jeffrey Simmons a few years back. November, like, he could be, and probably nowadays should be ready for training camp, at least by the beginning of the season. So, and depending on where he gets drafted, they might not press him as quickly to return, and that would be good for him too. But Cisco I get what Bowen was saying now about the range. Last week I read Matt Bowen's, top 50 players at everything. I get it now. And Richie Grant's not as quick as I thought. Richie Grant has dropped for me. I think now, like, late second would be probably, where he goes, or early third. Cisco's the second round guy. McShay's right. Bowen's right. Brett Coleman's right. Cisco's good. Cisco's really good. This guy, I wouldn't have be shocked if he was healthy if he ran in the 4.3s. Least low 4.4s, but 4.3s. He has the best range of any safety in this class, and he has the best ball skills of probably any DB in the class. It's him or Caleb. I mean, Caleb Farley has great ball skills. Paulson Adebo, J.C. Horn has really great ball skills. Patrick Surtain. But Cisco, dude, his body control and his ability to go up and get it is, I think, is second to none among the DBs in this class. If you're looking for the ideal center fielding free safety to put, as a single high safety in cover 1 and cover 3 looks, Cisco's your dude. So I was too low on both of them. Particularly, I don't feel like I was that low on Melifonwu. I do feel like I was way too low on Cisco. I was too high on Richie Grant. The more I've watched as well of Javon Holland, which I said I really liked him. I thought a lot of people had him too low yesterday. Like, Holland also looks like a perfect free safety. This safety class is better than I thought. This safety class is better than it's getting credit for, because I've got now. Trevon Merrick was definitely a first rounder. I think Javon Holland, if he went in the back end of the first round, like, I wouldn't really bat an eye at that. Andre Cisco, if it wasn't for the ACL injury, Cisco would probably be a late first round pick, at least early second. To me, he's a rangier version, at least in coverage, of Anton Whitfield Jr. from last year, who I loved. And if I was to say the guy he was most like in this draft, or that most compares to Winfield in this draft, it would either be, although I would probably say Holland because of his all-around play, or another really freak athlete, or another great athlete in the class, Derek Forrest out of Cincinnati. Derek Forrest, once again, I didn't have him. I had like maybe a 4th, 5th round grade on him. I think he clearly shouldn't go any later than safety's kind of like the running back of defense, so he could still fall into day 3, but Derek Forrest would be a steal on day 3. Forrest is really rangy. He's big. And on tape, this is a guy who can play the free safety role, but I think he would be perfect if you're running like the Seattle style defense that has become so vogue in the league. This is a guy who would fit the way the Niners play, the Jets play, the Raiders, because Gus Bradley is now there. Seattle, like, this guy is legit. He can play free safety, has great range. He's very physical too. You can play him as your down safety, and in a lot of those schemes, these are guys who, sure, they patrol kind of like that underneath middle, kind of like Cam Chancellor, but especially in more recent years, you've got those guys also. They are, when you've got multiple routes coming up the seam, that guy will carry that guy down the field. Forrest has great athleticism and long speed to carry, so that free safety doesn't have to stay right in the middle. He can cheat towards the other seam and fold back if needed. But Forrest can play either safety role in that scheme, and that allows you to vary looks, that sort of thing. I think he's got a lot of potential. This, like I said, this is a really good safety class. I talked about Divine Diablo out of Virginia Tech yesterday, who I said profiles as a more athletic version of Cam Chancellor. And I'll stick to that. He's really good. I mentioned Gillespie yesterday. Tyree Gillespie out of Missouri. Once again, a guy who he plays physical against the run. He can play that strong safety, down safety type role. He can play free safety. He's once again another really good rangy athlete who's long at the position. But this is a guy who has broken up passes in coverage against like Beaton, Devontae Smith, and Kyle Pitts in coverage. He has stuffed Najee Harris at the goal line multiple times, been a part of keeping him out of the end zone. One of those was on a between the tackles kind of play, or an off tackle kind of play that ended up, basically between the tackles, and he stuck Najee, stopped him in his tracks. The other was a kind of a play that had bounced outside where he tracked the play and helped finish or was part of finishing Najee off. I don't know if he was the first guy there or if he got there at the same time as the other dude, but they stonewalled him, and I don't even know if he got back to the line of scrimmage on the play. But, multiple positive plays against Najee Harris in the run game, positive plays against top 5, top 10 picks in coverage. Tyree Gillespie is real. And someone's probably going to get him in the 3rd, maybe even the 4th round. It just depends on how teams have their draft board set up. Let's see. Who's a couple other guys that I want to talk about. Talked about Milton Williams yesterday. Here was another guy. This is a guy I keep forgetting to mention. I want to, and I don't. Bobby Brown, the 3rd out of Texas A&M. If you're talking about the most probably the most freaky player at D tackle in this draft after Milton Williams, because Milton Williams, I think Brett Coleman put it best. This guy is the freakiest interior defensive line prospect we have seen since Aaron Donald. Full stop. And that's true. Brown's freaky in a different way. So Brown played nose at A&M. He's somewhere between 320, 325, and he's not a fat dude. This dude is hulked out. I mean, all those guys have a little bit of fat on, but I mean, like, compared to other nose tackles, this guy is yoked. And I'm going to call him out again, Brett Coleman, nailing it with, he said he reminded him physically of Linval Joseph. Now, Linval had crazy instincts and really good technique and all that as well. Like, Linval Joseph was awesome. And actually, I don't think he's retired yet. I'm pretty sure he signed on somewhere for this season after opting out last year. But Brown has incredible speed, suddenness for a guy who's 320 plus. This man's a freak. This guy, against SEC linemen, he's bulldozing people in pass protection. He's throwing guys aside. Some of these undersized or like these smaller than historical average centers, they can't handle him. Double teams don't all. I mean, this is a guy with the just brute force to just shred double teams physically, depending on who the guys are completing the doubles. You get this guy with I could imagine this guy going to, well, let's just say if this guy ended up on the Chargers with Brandon Stokely and whoever they have on their coaching staff, I could see them turning him into a nightmare to handle. You get him an aggressive scheme because there are some teams like I remember back in the Wade Phillips days with the Dallas Cowboys when they had Jay Ratliff, penetrating, attacking nose tackle. Brown would be he has better tools than Jay Ratliff had. And Jay Ratliff was outstanding for a few years there. You get him with the right defensive line coach, like who can really teach him and really coach him up on his work with his hands, like a Rod Malinelli or someone like that. This guy could be really dangerous. Or if he ended up on like my Titans, which we've brought Jim Schwartz in back to the team as part of our coaching staff. Schwartz is the guy responsible for resurrecting Kyle Vander. What was it? Kyle Vander. Not Vander Esch. Dadgummit. I'm forgetting his name. Dude was a highly drafted guy who dealt with a lot of injuries, but later in his career, he was able to change up, or he got with some sports science people. He was able to change his workout regimens and get healthy. And late in his career, he had some dominant years with the Titans alongside Albert Hainsworth, who Jim Schwartz also turned into a destroyer of worlds. Brown has that kind of athleticism and strength. And I would say he's a freakier athlete than Albert Hainsworth was at that kind of size. So Bobby Brown's the highest upside nose tackle type in this draft. And he has athleticism that none of them can match. Like Tyler Shelvin, I talked about, like, as big as he is, like him being pretty quick and agile. Look, Bobby Brown, that guy's terrifying. And depending on who drafts him, I'm just saying. Something else. Let's see. That was defense. Is there anyone else I want to talk about that I missed? I think I talked about him yesterday. But Peyton Turner out of Houston. So Peyton Turner's freaky. This guy played 6'5", between like 6'5", 6'6", 270 to 280. And they had this guy rushing off the edge out of a 2-point stance, and he's ghosting offensive tackles. You don't see guys that big with that kind of burst. Like, typically, those are guys that you're seeing play the 5 technique, like in a 3-4. Between the guard and the tackle. These are guys that you see getting moved inside to rush from the D tackle, like the 3 technique position and whatnot, and up the gut on nickel packages. And this guy's is playing like a stand-up outside linebacker and exploding off the edge like a dude who is 30, 40 pounds lighter than he is. I mean, good Lord, that dude's insane. You want to talk about maybe the best tools of any pass rusher, which that's saying something. Like, obviously, Jason Owe has the best tools, which Owe, he's only been playing football like 4 years. He was a basketball player. So, the fact that Owe and some of the improvement he made, especially like playing the run in 2020 compared to 2019, he didn't have a sack in 2020 in the shortened season, but he did look way better playing the run. But Peyton Turner, really like him. Ellerson Smith, somehow I missed this in his pro day measurements. Like, this is a dude who ran like between 4.7, 4.74 in the 40, had a 41 and a half inch vertical. and like a 7-second 3-cone. That's made him more impressive by the fact that he was like 6'7". I knew that his teammate, the offensive tackle Spencer Brown, was 6'8". Ellerson Smith was 6'7" and had like a 7-second 3-cone and a 41-inch vert. Everything that people were kind of expecting from Gregory Rousseau's workouts, that's what Ellerson Smith is. His hip wiggle is really good for a guy that size. Same with Peyton Turner. Most guys that are like that tall or that hefty, they don't have that bend, that flexibility. And those guys have it. And Smith dominated his competition, which you have to at the FCS level. But, I mean, there were times, once again, this guy's 6'7", like 250, 260. And he's just blasting past the offensive tackles. I'm talking, there was one where I saw this guy, which you could tell, like, from his stance. I'm like, oh, this guy's set up inside. I think he's just going to run by. And he did, and the thing is, you see it, and it's like, man, he's going to get beat to the outside. And the guy didn't just get beat to the outside. That offensive tackle had to whip his head around. It looked like his neck was going to break because Smith was by him so fast. And I saw multiple times on his tape where he would just, the lineman couldn't even touch him. He got off the ball so fast and just passed him. There were times where this guy they would hold this man and he would still make the play, get a hand on the quarterback or take down the running back while he just dragged them to the play. So I'm really high on Smith. There are a lot of really good players in this class on the edge, at linebacker, at corner, at safety, who would go much higher in other drafts. And even, people are dissing this interior defensive line class. We don't have, the kind of world records. We don't have, an Aaron Donald. But Milton Williams has the athletic profile of an Aaron Donald. I talked about Bobby Brown. This guy athletically is super freaky. And if he wasn't as raw of a player, he probably would be in contention for a first-round pick, because we've seen guys who, I'm just saying, aren't as athletically gifted at him at that size go in the first round. Or guys who were just as raw go in the first round. I'm looking at Bobby Brown. I'd rather have taken him in the first round than Taven Bryan out of Florida. Taven Bryan, freaky athlete, but he hadn't done anything at the NFL level. I think Brown's a better prospect than Bryan. So, I'm not saying he's going in the first round, but him and Milton Williams, I don't think they're far off of, in terms of ability as prospects or talent, as the top two guys, Christian Barmore and Levi Onwuzurike. Although I do think I'm higher on Barmore than some people, because I think Barmore is a legit first round guy, and I don't think he's that far off talent wise from some of the other elite Bama guys who've come before him. So, and that's really all I've got. Is more defensive ideas. I've talked enough about offensive players, really. So, let's see, what time is it? Okay, I'm doing really good. So, those were some guys that I either was wrong on or had not gotten to yet. We'll get into some rumors I'm hearing. Then we'll go find that article that I want to find. Oh, what was it? Oh, yeah. So, the word is right now that the Niners This is regarding the number 3 pick and the Niners and the whole which quarterback are they going to draft. Word is at this point that it is a two-man race for that spot. It's Mac Jones and Trey Lance. Shanahan supposedly has been sold on Mac Jones throughout the process. Like, he's been his guy. But he isn't just shutting other people down or whatever. He has, the reports are he's kept a very open mind about the selection, and he wants everybody else's opinions. He wants to be challenged. He wants to make the right decision. It seems like the biggest part of the organization wants Trey Lance. That Trey Lance and Mac Jones are the top two, and Fields is the third guy. Whether that's because Shanahan and because of how much sway he has, like, it's either going to be Mac Jones and Trey Lance because Trey Lance has more fans than Justin Fields in the organization or whatever. It seems like Justin Fields is the third wheel in this and probably isn't the pick. And from what I understand, there are a lot of people within the organization who think Trey Lance is, or should, like, they are really stomping for Trey Lance. But my thing is, if Kyle Shanahan thinks that Mac Jones is the best guy, I'd probably listen to Kyle Shanahan because he's done really great work in his career. Kyle Shanahan prioritizes ability to play inside the pocket and execute the offense. And there is no better quarterback out of the 5 quarterbacks at doing that than Mac Jones. And people could talk about, the tools and upside and da-da-da-da-da. And people want to poo-poo his 77.4% completion percentage last year, having elite receivers in the short game. Well, his completion percentage on throws 20-plus yards down the field was 61.2%, which is historically elite. And you could say what you want about the great receivers. He was having to go up against elite cover corners. You have, is it Byron Stingley? Stingley from LSU, I believe, was healthy by the time Bama played them. Which LSU has our defense was kind of rough last year. But Stingley, elite cover corner. But let's take him out of the equation. Let's just go guys who are probably going to be drafted this year. J.C. Horner. His teammate, it's like, is it Israel Amukamaru? It's definitely Amukamaru, who's like a big corner, probably going to be a day 3 guy. Although there were some people who had him like as a late first, like second round prospect, coming into the year, or at least last season. There's a corner from Michigan that's kind of underrated that I'm forgetting his name. You've got all the Georgia corners, Stokes, Campbell, and DJ Daniel. DJ Daniel, he's only going to be a slot guy, but he could be a pretty good one. But Campbell and Stokes, like, these guys are going to be off the board, potentially top 50, definitely in the first 2 rounds, I would say. And now Campbell's getting, like, late first round buzz from people who are just all tools. Like Stokes is like a late first, early second guy. He's not as fluid as Campbell, but in terms of press man coverage, like, Stokes is one of the best press coverage guys in the draft and has elite top of the class, top end speed. I'm just off of memory trying to remember all the DBs Mac Jones has had to face. In terms of safeties, you've got Tyree Gillespie of Missouri. His teammate Bledsoe, who's probably going to be a day 3 pick, who also has some upside. Ja'Cory Stevens of LSU. Dadgummit. Oh, I'm blanking on his name too. Oh, yeah. Marco Wilson out of Florida. Richard LeCount, safety from Georgia. I don't think I mentioned him yet. I mean, there's a bunch of really good defensive backs. And I'll throw Bryce Thompson of Tennessee in there. A really good coverage player who I think is underrated by people. And and Alontae Taylor, who was our top cornerback. So, among other players, I mean, and this guy's having to go up against guys like, in practice, he's had to go up against guys like Trevon Diggs, Patrick Surtain, I'm forgetting his first name, but Job, who was one of their starting their other outside corner across from Surtain this year. Who was that young slot guy? And then, of course, their safeties. Like, I'm just saying, I don't understand this whole thing where against Mac Jones. I don't understand it because literally everything I see people use to criticize Mac Jones it all applies to Joe Burrow, except Joe Burrow's a little more athletic. That's it. His arm's not better. And I would argue that Mac Jones might have a better arm than Joe Burrow. And in terms of... And if you look at the grade for Chase, everybody has Chase rated as a better player than Devontae Smith. Justin Jefferson was the best wide receiver last year. Out of the rookie receivers. And had one of the top 3 rookie receiver seasons of all time, period. So, I'm just saying, Burrow had incredible talent around him. Mac Jones had incredible talent around him. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, they all had incredible talent around him during their careers. Like, Chris Olave would be a top 20 pick. I'm pretty certain if he decided to declare this year rather than stay in school another year and try and be the first receiver taken. I wouldn't be shocked next year if Olave wins the Blitnikoff Award and is basically like Devontae Smith. He's the rare like senior receiver that doesn't fail to meet projections because he really should have come out the year before. Because usually if a guy stays till his senior year, that's usually a red flag. Wasn't for Smith. Smith just wanted to prove that he was elite. That he was a top 10 pick. That he was the best of all those Bama receivers. And he proved it. So, anyway. But the word is, like, Mac Jones is Kyle Shanahan's guy. But the organization is trying really hard to convince him to take Trey Lance. And this is his decision to make. Let's go find that article. Man, City, you better not lose to PSG. See, Bridgewater. Antonio Brown is re-signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that's big news. Let me put that. Boom. There we go. So let's see. Antonio Brown re-signing. I talked about the Bridgewater trade. Source, running back Barkley on track for start of season, which that's good. Saquon Barkley's injury was one of like the biggest heartbreakers of last season. The Bengals are declining the 5th-year option on 2017 or 2018 first round pick Billy Price's contract. That's not a shock. He's been terrible, just like I expected. I thought he was overrated. Let's see, Panthers BOA Stadium transitioning to turf. Wow. Well, there's another grass stadium down. Falcons GM keeping options open at number 4. So, let's go to the NFL page. Please. There we go. Yep, here we go. Let's see. We all want to bet the first thing here is the 49ers article. Or is about the 49ers. Let's see. Yep. That's it. That's what this is about. Let's see. Yeah, this is basically saying everything I just said for the most part. If you were to poll a dozen league front office officials, you'd get a wide range of opinions on who wins out here. With Jones taking the lead and Lance in second, Fields appears to have finished third in this competition. Yep, that's basically what I was saying that I had heard. Kyle Shanahan gives the 49ers the edge, and Mac is the warrior to situate that edge, said one high-ranking NFC exec. And an NFC coach with ties to Shanahan, Mac is basically all the QBs Kyle has coached rolled into one. Cousins, Schaub, Ryan. He can run the play action and knows where to go with the ball in a flash. He needs someone to rip it without hesitation and let Kyle's scheme do the rest, or open the rest. And that's absolutely true. And if you look on tape, Mac Jones is the quickest decision maker out of any of the quarterbacks in this draft. The quickest. Kyle doesn't want his quarterback holding on the ball forever. Now, on deep concepts, obviously you're going to, but Shanahan likes to scheme things to where he's getting big plays, but the ball is getting into his playmakers' hands quickly. And there they have Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, who are two of the best after-the-catch players in the NFL. Ayuk ran like kind of a slow 40. He plays faster than that, and it doesn't really matter. Let's see. So it makes sense. The 49ers, however, have entered the process with an open mind, and Fields and Lance have made compelling cases. We're told the 49ers were pleased with how Fields handled himself throughout as he explained his decision-making and preparation. They felt, as did many other teams, that Lance came across incredibly well in virtual meetings and has a ton of intangibles, but that might not be enough. Lance's second pro day last week. Shanahan and Lynch met with North Dakota State coaches to figure out how Lance would handle the intricacies of Shanahan's offense, including lengthy verbiage. And that's another thing that we kind of take for granted in thinking about is how we don't think about, when we think of plays, a lot of us think in this context, especially of my generation, of the simplicities of Madden play calling, corners, four verts, stuff like that. That's not how these plays are communicated on the field, because then the defense would know what was coming. And some coaches are way more lengthy with their verbiage, with there being stuff in the call that means nothing. And believe it or not, stuff like that does trip up certain types of people who might even be good at the position, but memorizing all that stuff can be difficult for some people because their minds do not work that way. Coaches explained how Lance's ability to verbalize lengthy calls, get the offense organized, and set protections is a strength for the quarterback, which that's true in terms of, or at the very least for the setting protections. Unlike seemingly Fields and a lot of college quarterbacks, Lance set his protections. Not that every NFL team does that, but most quarterbacks have the ability at the line to change protections based on what they see. And that's a big deal. North Dakota State coaches spent significant time with San Francisco and Atlanta in the process. There would be at least mild surprise in Fargo if both pass on him. I think Atlanta's doing its due diligence, but I don't know if they're going to take a quarterback. Keep this in mind, the 49ers don't smoke screen well when it comes to the first round of the draft. Their first pick has been well known ahead of the draft in every year since Shanahan became coach and John Lynch became GM. We knew Solomon Thomas was their guy in 2017. Yeah, that worked out well. It took until the final few days to clarify, but by draft day in 2018, we knew they liked Mike McGlinchey. Yeah, but he was also a perfect fit for their scheme, and it just kind of made sense anyway. They never wavered from Nick Bosa in 2019. Yeah, but everyone knew that was going to be the pick in 2019. Give me a break. And last year, after they traded defensive tackle DeForest Buckner to the Colts for a first-round pick in March, it was expected that they planned to draft Javon Kinlaw to replace him. Yeah. Yeah. Because Derek Brown wasn't falling that far. Wasn't falling to that pick. We also knew that Brandon Ayuk checked all the boxes for what Shanahan likes in his receivers, too, and they ended up moving up a few spots to get him. I mean, a lot of teams don't smoke screen well. The only ones that smoke screen well are the ones that do stupid stuff. I love these guys saying, we just have a perfect read on the Niners. It's like, good for you. Someone like me who doesn't have access to information inside the organization was aware of a lot of those picks. Now, especially in recent years since I've really gotten deep into digging into this stuff and studying teams and coaches and like their philosophies, like Nick Bosa wasn't a surprise. Like we all knew they were drafting him that year. Like that wasn't a shock. Because whoever was at number 2 whoever was going to have the earliest drafting team that didn't need a quarterback was going to take him. Could Washington make a huge move up the board? Washington football team, which owns the number 19 pick, has done legwork on a potential trade-up, making phone calls to teams in or around the top 10. Talked to a few evaluators who think Washington's target is not a quarterback. Most possible jumps are for a passer, though, and it requires parting with serious draft capital. 3 years ago, Buffalo gave up first and fifth rounders plus offensive tackle Cordy Glenn to move up from number 21 to Cincinnati's number 12 spot, plus a throw-in sixth-rounder. Then gave up number 12 and 2 second-rounders to get Josh Allen, and they look like geniuses now for doing that. It's worth noting Lance went through the pre-draft process thinking Washington was among the teams very high on him, and general manager Martin Mayhew spent time with the North Dakota State staff in Fargo. Coach Ron Rivera knows his team has serious needs and could be willing to part with draft capital as a result. The team was in on talks for Stafford and tackle Orlando Brown before backing out. At the very least, let's see. Number 10, keep an eye out for TCU safety. Oh, at number 19, keep an eye out for Trevon Moehrig. Washington likes him a lot. He's expected to be the first safety off the board. That's true. Yeah, but based on Washington's needs, I think that would be a bum pick. It also depends on who's available at the time, but offensive tackle, quarterback of the future, I would argue still another pass catcher of some sort are bigger needs. Yes, they have McLaurin. Yes, they have Curtis Samuel, but getting another complementary piece to those guys, like a bigger receiver like Terrace Marshall or an all-around guy like Rashad Bateman would be really smart. But you could wait and get a guy like Diami Brown or Nico Collins in the second or third round. So Panthers on the move. Carolina, which owns the number 8 pick, is angling to trade back. I think that's smart. Get more picks. The Panthers have 7 picks now and would like to have more. They believe they can get a premier player, like one of the top cornerbacks, for example, just a few spots back. And that's true. That's true, I believe. If they do stand pat, and Oregon offensive tackle Penei Sewell gets past the Bengals at number 5, Carolina is high on him and could look to secure the left tackle of the future or leverage him to move back, which, hey, that could work. Case for Zach Wilson. Most execs and evaluators would take Trevor Lawrence, number 1, all day, but there is a small group that believes if you stripped away the Lawrence hype, Wilson might at least make a compelling case as the best quarterback in the class. That's interesting. And here's the thing, I don't entirely disagree with that sentiment. Like, at all. Actually, I really, really like Zach Wilson. If you value throwing ability and arm angles and wow throws, then you could talk yourself into Wilson at number 1. An NFL exec said, who added, Lawrence is still more of a total package, though. Add another exec, it'd at least be worth a heated discussion in a normal year. I might actually take him if I had the first pick. I'm in the minority. His release, mechanics, and the ability to play fast are elite. And all of that is true. Like, all these little things, the arm angles, which that matters because different arm angles are actually better at different distances and for different types of throws. And depending on your own body positioning and movements, Wilson's got some incredible abilities throwing the ball. He's also, as an athlete, he's more quick and sudden than Lawrence. Wilson is expected to be picked 2nd overall by the Jets. Are the Patriots in for a quarterback? Most people around the league are skeptical, and I'm kind of skeptical too. But it's hard to predict anything the Patriots do. probably wouldn't trade their 2022 first-round pick, but they have 10 picks in this year's draft and could, if they wanted to, put together a package that could get them in the top 10. I don't know. If Detroit and Carolina pass on quarterbacks and Denver takes Lance at 9, which I don't think they're going to do now, because I saw this morning before the reports of the Panthers trading Bridgewater there. If they don't take a quarterback, New England likely will take one of the cornerbacks with their first pick, especially with Stephon Gilmore's situation still unsettled. Gilmore is a sneaky candidate to get traded on draft weekend or soon thereafter, depending on how things shake out with New England's defensive back situation. See, that's funny because I've kind of been pegging them as a team that goes after like Micah Parsons or trades down and gets Zaven Collins. Corner chatter, Horn or Surtain. It seems the top two cornerbacks in this class are South Carolina's J.C. Horn and Alabama's Patrick Surtain, simply because of Farley's back issue, because Farley would easily be in that discussion too, in some order. Some of the conversations we've had in recent days indicate that Horn could be the first corner taken, though among folks we've asked to compare the two, the sense is that they like both a great deal. Surtain is viewed as the better tackler, with probably cleaner and more consistent film overall. That's true. But others prefer Horn's in-your-face attitude. Either player will make some team happy, and the Lions, Panthers, Broncos, Cowboys, Giants, and Eagles are among the teams in the top 12 that could take a corner and surprise no one. So they're saying 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So like the back half of the top 12, all of them could take corners. Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. Caleb Farley might be a top-tier talent, and some teams have him as the best cover corner based on ability. But there's concern over where exactly he can contribute coming off off-season back surgery. When exactly? The second of his career. He also has a lack of film after opting out last season, finishing his collegiate career playing 23 games for Virginia Tech. One general manager said Farley's stock is treading water, and teams are concerned about his flexibility after having multiple procedures. That's true. They'd rather deal with a knee injury than a back issue. Once again, I agree. But it only takes one team to fall in love with him. Farley's skills are obvious, and agent Drew Rosenhaus is predicting Farley will go in the first round. I don't think he'll fall out either. Rosenhaus has a track record on this sort of thing. He forecasted before the 2019 draft that any team trading for Devin Bush must get to number 10, and that's exactly what the Steelers did. There's a lot of final week uncertainty, however. Yeah. Waddle keeps rising. That's not a surprise because speed kills. Like everyone, and he's not just a speed guy. He has really good athleticism otherwise. He's not just fast. He's lightning quick and agile. And it's weird to hear him, keeps rising because there's a lot of people who have had him ahead of Devontae Smith in this process. I don't, but which wide receiver will go first? I think it's going to be Jamar Chase for sure, but, that depends. One evaluator called him Michael Thomas, but faster, while another said Chase had legs like a running back, but moves like a receiver. I agree with that. Which is why I call him like Anquan Bolden with rocket boosters. Bengals coach Zach Taylor said in a news conference Monday that Chase's relationship with quarterback Joe Burrow is a factor the team considers when drafting or when deciding which way to go here. I think they should just go with Chase. Assuming the Falcons take Florida tight end Kyle Pitts with the number 4 overall pick, as most people now seem to believe they will, Cincinnati at number 5 is choosing between Chase and Sewell. If the Bengals don't take Chase, Miami surely will take him at number 6. If the Bengals do take Chase, Miami likely takes one of the Alabama receivers. And the best guess from sources close to the situation is that the Dolphins go with Heisman Trophy winner Devontae Smith. And I think that's what they should do. Because if they were to draft Waddle, they already have Will Fuller. They're basically the same player. Waddle's has a little more wiggle. Fuller has a little more downfield, like vertical contested catch explosiveness. But Smith he's just an elite route runner. He gives them something that they don't have. They have the big-bodied receiver in Parker. They have like the kind of smaller speed demon in Fuller. Smith is long. So Smith is a little over 6 foot, not quite 6'1", or he's close to 6'1", but he's got like a 6'6" wingspan, which is ridiculous. That's like ideal NBA point guard length right there. That's why Aaron Holiday ended up going in the first round of the Pacers. One of the big things was like he was 6'1", but he had like a 6'7" wingspan. Or 6 foot, 6'1", but he had like a 6'7" wingspan. That kind of length helps him, and that kind of arm length helps him surprise corners with some of the passes he can get to. Plus, he's extremely sudden in his change of direction ability, which, according to some of like the new tracking data we have, his change of direction ability is like at the top of the charts, comparable to Stephon Diggs. And he's longer than Diggs. He's a little slimmer than Diggs, but to me, Smith is the best pure receiver in this class. It is worth noting, however, that Tuesday's trade of offensive lineman Eric Flowers from Miami to Washington got a lot of people wondering whether Miami was planning to pass on the playmaker and take Sewell at number 6. We're hearing Miami wants to move Robert Hunt to guard full-time. But my thing is there's so many good tackles in this class, and I think you leave Austin Jackson at left tackle and you take a guy who has played the right side, who has played right tackle his entire career, in Tevin Jenkins at 18. Or heck, maybe even move up a few spots using some of the incredible amount of draft capital you have. Move it from like 18 to maybe 15 and take him if the Patriots want to move down or something. Just some different ideas. But, I mean, I think you take Smith at 6 and you go with Jenkins at 18. Since he takes Chase and Miami takes Smith, that leaves Waddle, who could be an option for the Lions at number 7. The Lions could go a number of different ways. Like, they could go anywhere because they have so many needs. The Panthers at 8, which he would provide such an awesome, like, that the trio of receivers in Carolina for Darnold, if they took Waddle, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle, that's 3 fast guys who all have some different skill sets in there. Waddle and Moore just can dominate at all levels, but are really great in the quick game and after the catch. And then you've got Anderson, who is this tall, downfield, contested catch monster. Oh, man, that would be crazy. Is Atlanta locked in? I mean, we heard that they're open to just anything. Sewell is the chess piece. Yeah. It could be that the tackles fall. And my thing is, Sewell is not as long, and he's not as physically gifted and a generational talent like some people are saying. Sewell's arm length basically came in at right kind of at the bottom end of where like you really want your tackles to be. Some people were saying, trying to compare this guy to like Jonathan Ogden, and like that's laughable. Jonathan Ogden might be the best tackle prospect of all time and the greatest left tackle of all time. So, and at the very least in my lifetime, it's him or Joe Thomas. So, while we're on offensive tackles, they will be in high demand once again, despite the lack of undeniable day one starters. What? Because I think Sewell could start from day one. I think Rashawn Slater starts from day one. I think Darrisaw could start from day one. I think Jenkins will be one of the best right tackles in the league from the jump. Oh, what these people were talking about. Like, Eichenberg and Mayfield should be able to start it. Although maybe for Eichenberg, maybe he starts off at guard. Some people were talking about some of these guys starting off at guard and then moving to tackle. I don't think that would be the case. I've got like 7 guys that I think legitimately day one starters that you feel great about. Which Kansas City showed by trading out of number 31 to take Orlando Brown. Yeah, but by that point, that's because it's at 31, and Brown is better than those guys, and the Chiefs are still in win-now mode. Like, I don't know. I think the Chiefs were a little aggressive there because I like the tackles that were going to be on the board there. There's good depth at the position. Good depth. There's amazing depth. But some teams will be taking on projects, several sources say. Several sources say they loosely expect a similar output to last year, when 6 tackles were drafted in the first round, despite some second-round grades in the bunch. Which, that's kind of my thing. Like, Mayfield, Eichenberg, Radens, Cosme, like, those guys all range from, like, late first to, like, mid-second for me. I don't love Cosme's tape, but his tools are undeniable. But, you know. This formula will ensure Sewell and Slater go high, and it will likely mean, or likely push Virginia Tech's Christian Darrisaw well into the top 20. Darrisaw is arguably the best pure pass protecting tackle in this draft. Darrisaw didn't have a great pre-draft process coming off core muscle surgery, but his tape is good. His tape is really good. I just don't care. I think there's no consensus on the 4th best tackle. Names we hear often are Leatherwood. That's interesting because I've heard a lot of people think he's a guard. Oklahoma State's Tevin Jenkins. Most people, that's the 4th tackle. Is Tevin Jenkins. But draft boards vary on this, which isn't a surprise. North Dakota State's Dylan Radens is rising and might even slip into the late first or early second round. That's where I've expected him to go all along. He has the flexibility to play all spots on the line. That's true. Notre Dame's Liam Eichenberg, likely more of a right tackle. Severance Walker Little, who is another guy I probably should have listed on the guys that people are sleeping on because he opted out of last season. And he's had some injury issues, but I think Walker, like before going into 2019, Walker Little was arguably the top tackle prospect, or he was easily a first-round guy. Like, Walker Little's an elite prospect who, because of certain issues, might slide, but he's got way better tape than Sam Cosme. And then Michigan's Jalen Mayfield are intriguing. I think Mayfield is really underrated right now. One scouting director called this year a short-armed class of tackles. That's a little true. Darisaw and Radins were both measured at 34 inches in arm length. Yep. But many of the top guys are shorter. Most of the league's best tackles are longer than 34 inches, and last year's high picks, Andrew Thomas and Mekhi Becton, both cleared 35 inches. Yeah, and Andrew Thomas kind of had a rough year. Although I still believe in him long term. How could the running back class shape up? Whatever. Getting defensive, da-da-da. Penn State linebacker Micah Parsons would be Detroit's pick at 7. That's possible. Parsons could go anywhere from 7 to like 19. Kewadi Paye is, I think, a little overrated. His size was overrated. Everybody was talking about him being 6'4", 272. He's like 6'2", 260. He is explosive, though. He's the safest of the pass rushers, though he might just be the best of a substandard-looking bunch. I think people are sleeping on this pass rushing class, personally, but whatever. Giants stay at number 11. It's not traded down in any round as GM. That's true. Dave Gettleman has never traded down in any round, ever, as the GM of the Giants or Panthers. Never traded down once, ever, at any point. Not the first round, just ever. Golly, Bill. That's crazy to think. Could there be a 6 first round? Man. We hear buzz around Florida's pro day last month that the Saints like quarterback Kyle Trask. And that stands true this week. They did a lot of homework on him. While the Saints could go wide receiver or cornerback on day 1, Trask is on the radar. They own the number 28 pick. They're not taking Trask in the first round. I don't think anyone's considering Trask in the first round. I think if they like him, they might take him at the end of the second round. If a 6 quarterback can sneak into round 1, Tampa Bay and Trask is a fit that multiple NFL people have connected. He's a pure pocket guy. He can throw on platform at a high level, which is what Bruce Arians loves. Tampa has all roster needs met and can truly make a luxury pick at number 32. Yeah, but I've been seeing, like, if they did take one, it would be Davis Mills. So mobility is a concern that plagued him, but teams also know that a high ankle sprain affected his late season movement outside the pocket and slowed his pro day prep. Okay. Rebel package. Connecting Ole Miss receiver Elijah Moore as a viable option for Tennessee. Yeah, I'd be totally fine with it. I'd love to have more. He's my absolute favorite player in the draft, said a veteran AFC scout. Will instantly make an offense better. Many teams pegged Moore as a second-round prospect to start, but he has worked his way into first-round consideration. I talked about on, I think it was yesterday's show, I was reading through McShay's, what he was hearing this week, and it seems like Elijah Moore has become the consensus number 4 receiver. That's a wrap. Potential first-round slot receiver Kadarius Toney likes to rap producing music videos under the name Young Joka. Okay. Speaking to Tony, I don't care about that. Teams ask me about it. Live from the Rams draft mansion. Oh God. So the Rams decided to rent a McMansion. So, I don't know who the heck that person was, or if y'all heard that. I guess this woman maybe owns it, or I don't know who she is. Uh, Nor do I care. But apparently, the Rams have a McMansion for draft day. I guess it has something to do with last year, all the hype about like the people from their houses. Like you had Jerry Jones on his yacht, you had Cliff Kingsbury at his house, which oh, that's who that is. That's Rebel Wilson. I didn't recognize her because she looks she looks like a totally different and more healthy person. Good for her. So that's the Rams, their draft house. How about that? Um, Freaking amazing. I love it. If I'm not mistaken, Cliff Kingsbury took a shot or made fun of him about it or whatever. 10 more team-specific nuggets. Da da da. Armed with 2 late first-round picks. Oh yeah, the Ravens. Da da da. Well, obviously they're going to need another starting offensive tackle. There are 3 big things that I see the Ravens needing to target this year. That's offensive tackle, wide receiver, and edge. They love to target day 2 edge guys, and there's tons of guys of really great prospects from rounds 2 to 3. So I think they'll be totally fine there. They could go round 1 and then take a receiver later, or wait on the offensive tackle. I don't think they'll do that though. I honestly think their picks at 27 and 31, one of those is going to be a receiver, and I'm expecting it to be Terrace Marshall, maybe Rashad Bateman, but I'm expecting it to be Terrace Marshall. And then if Zaven Collins is available at one of those 2 spots, I wouldn't be shocked to see Zaven Collins go. If Jalen Phillips is there, they might take Phillips because he's so good. But if not, I would say they go Terrace Marshall and take one of the tackles at 27 and 31. And then, like, whichever order, I think Marshall will be available at both those picks. Then in the second round, Peyton Turner of Houston that I talked about earlier is exactly the kind of guy it's like if someone built a pass rusher in a lab for the Ravens, to me, it's Peyton Turner. So, and they probably should take multiple. And they've got in this draft. So, let's see. The Packers are among the teams to do a lot of research on Minnesota receiver Rashad Bateman. Yeah, there's a lot of buzz about the Packers being all in on Bateman. Potentially. They've spent time with him in the process. Is this finally the year Aaron Rodgers gets a day 1 pass catcher? I mean, people talk about that, but it's like, let's look at the best receivers that they've drafted, or the best receivers that Aaron Rodgers has played with. Let's see. Devontae Adams wasn't a first-round pick. Neither was Greg Jennings. Neither was Jordy Nelson. Neither was Randall Cobb or James Jones. Not a one of them. So, Detroit could go any number of ways. Yeah, I mean, predicting what the Lions are going to do at 7 is impossible. Or to me is like it's the hardest spot. The Cowboys are locked in on defense at number 7, but they were locked in on defense last year and were shocked that, CeeDee Lamb was available. That's true. But this year, I think just the board's going to fall to where they're going to pick corner. It's fascinating that the Eagles traded back from number 6 to number 12. Resulted in 3 NFC East rivals drafting in consecutive order. Cowboys at 10, Giants 11, Eagles 12. That makes it even tougher than usual for those teams to get reliable intel about what the team is closest to them in the draft order plan to do. Okay, interesting, weird nugget. The Bengals do go with Chase at number 5. They'll be looking for offensive tackle, help with their second-round pick, and possibly their third and fourth-round picks as well. Some names we hear they like include Eichenberg, not a shock. Creed Humphrey, not a shock. Landon Dickerson, also not a shock. And then Quinn Miners. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals try to move up and get 2 of those guys in the second round because Dickerson has injury issues, but I don't see him falling out of the second round. Humphreys, to me, seems too good to fall out of the second round. Miners seems like he's locked in to the mid to late second round now, and I love him. The Raiders, who have made getting younger on the offensive line a priority this offseason, are thought to be looking at several of the tackles options in the mid to late part of the first round. They own the number 17 pick and did extensive work on Trey Lance. They don't need a quarterback, but worked as if they did over recent weeks. I would say this. If there's one team that could spoil the Dolphins getting Tevin Jenkins, it's the Raiders. So, but we'll see. The Steelers need to rebuild their offense and could certainly take an offensive lineman or even a running back in the first round. But it's important to note that their last 7 first-round picks have been defensive players. They didn't have a first-round pick last year because of the Devin Bush trade. Or no, because of the Micah Fitzpatrick trade. Minka Fitzpatrick, who plays defense. The last offensive player they took in the first round was guard David DeCastro, and before that it was center Marquise Pouncey in 2012 and 2010. So yeah. Defense or offensive line most likely. That's not a surprise. Zaven Collins absolutely fits the mold for Pittsburgh, just like the Ravens. They love strong, versatile edge defenders. Zaven Collins' stock is rising. His stock is risen. Like, what? Team most likely to trade? How about Seahawks, who have only 3 picks in the entire draft? Yeah. We'll see. How many trade down teams will try to collect picks in next year's draft? This year's draft, remember, is viewed as the most difficult one to evaluate in recent memory. Sure. All right. So, with that being said, I'm going to kind of end this off with I got a thought in my head while I was talking about different stuff, and I've forgotten what I was going to do. Oh, yeah. So we'll end the show today with just kind of my teams that I find the most interesting, or the teams that are going to spur the most discussion around the draft this year. The teams that are basically the teams that are going to run the draft. So obviously, like early on, it's the teams with multiple first-round picks. Are first kind of your obvious ones. So you've got the Dolphins. Well, I mean, you've got the Jaguars who are at 1-25. The Jets at 2-23. The Dolphins at 6-18. The Ravens have 27-31. Of course, the quarterbacks, and which teams are going to be drafting quarterbacks. I think Denver signaled they're not in the quarterback market. I also, to a degree, I don't know. It's like it does cloud it a little bit for Carolina, but I think Carolina shouldn't be in the quarterback market in this draft. Nor do I think Detroit should be. So then the most interesting teams become the teams that are perceived to maybe need a quarterback of the future. The Patriots, maybe. Personally, I don't think Cam is their long-term answer. But I don't know if they're going to make that decision this year. I'm skeptical on that. So then it's Washington and Chicago at 19-20. Do they move up? Do quarterback? Or after like some quarterback slide? And then if so, how far do they move up? The Eagles also don't seem to be in, and Giants seem to be committed to the young quarterbacks on their roster. Particularly the Giants and, well, the Eagles too. It seems like the owner really wants to give Hurts a shot. And then, of course, then you've got the back end of the round. You've got, and this is the fun thing, is the teams that have kind of like old quarterbacks. Drew Brees is finally retired. But the Saints, Jameis Winston's on a 1-year deal. Taysom Hill's not the quarterback of the future, I don't think. What do the Saints do at 28? Or do they maybe take a flyer on a guy later, potentially? The Steelers at 24. At least this year they're committed to Ben Roethlisberger. And they seem to still like Mason Rudolph for whatever reason. They did bring in Dwayne Haskins, so I would still expect them to go. I'm expecting them to go offensive line, personally. Maybe Najee at running back, but I don't like first-round running backs. I just don't. Well, especially if I believe that there is a far more dire need. It definitely depends on the team, but for the Steelers, you lost Villanueva, you lost Pouncey. Well, you let Villanueva walk, and then you lost Pouncey to retirement. You just need guys. So I would expect offensive line to be the selection at 24. Then you've got the Bucks at 32, who they brought Antonio Brown back. Like, they are loaded at receiver. They have a great offensive line. They've got Fournette and Gio Bernard at running back. They could still draft one. They could draft one at 32. They could draft one later in the draft, but it's not necessarily like a pressing need. Their defensive line is really good, although I think that's where they could use some depth. And at pass rusher, they could probably use some more depth. But in terms of the starters, they're low. I mean, they've got arguably the best pair of linebackers in the NFL with Levante David back and Devin White. They're loaded with young corners. They've got really good young safeties. I don't see needs there anywhere. They could do whatever. They can do whatever. So this could be a spot if Barmore slides further than I think he will in the first round. Barmore would be a great pick for them. Levi Onwuzurike could be a good pick for them. with his athleticism, I I'm just saying it wouldn't shock me if somehow Milton Williams snuck into like the late first, early second round because his athletic traits are ridiculous. And I feel like Todd Bowles could get a lot out of Williams, and so could Brandon Stokely, who's the defensive coordinator, or who's now the head coach for the Los Angeles Chargers, if they were to draft Williams in the second round. Just saying. So the Buccaneers, and of course, like the contenders, what did they do? Or like the Bills. The Buffalo Bills have one of the best rosters in the league. The Browns also have one of the best rosters in the league. Though the Browns did just cut Sheldon Richardson, so to me, that's a really good spot for Barmore. The Jaguars, Barmore would be a really good fit for the Jaguars too. I think both those teams could use interior, but like the Browns just need pass rushers alongside Garrett. They did sign Jadeveon Clowney, but they could still draft an edge. But now I think like Barmore just really fits. So Barmore, Zaven Collins is another good fit there that I really like. So yeah, I think they just go front seven there, the Browns. Then, like in the second and third rounds, it's teams that have like, of course, multiple picks in those rounds. The Jaguars will continue to run the draft. They've got pick 33 and pick 45 in the second round. Trying to think who else. The Chiefs now have multiple picks in the second round because of part of the Brown trade is they got the Ravens second round pick, so the Ravens moved up from the second or from their second round pick to the Chiefs first round pick. So the Chiefs have the 27th and 31st picks of the second round or something like that. Whew. Moving on there. And then it'll be interesting to see what the Rams do later in the draft. They don't have a first round pick, but they do have, I believe, multiple picks in like the fourth round. They might have multiple in the third. But they have done a really great job of just nailing days 2 and 3 of the draft, and that's why they felt so comfortable being so aggressive with their first round picks and trading and acquiring players with their first round picks. So we're definitely going to see, and I wouldn't be shocked if we saw them. If I'm looking at going back and looking at what I thought were their biggest needs, they got a really good play from a unheralded corner last year, and it's one of the reasons they let Troy Hill walk. I feel like they will target corner in this draft. They're going to have to replace John Johnson, so they're going to have to I feel like they'll have to draft a safety potentially, but they do have 2 young, talented safeties on their roster already in Taylor Rapp and I think, is it Terrell Burgess out of Utah? I think it was out of Utah. I think he was injured last year, or like he was coming off an ACL or whatever. I think he'll be much better in year 2. So they may not target safety, but it would be I think it'd be a really interesting spot to see maybe Andre Cisco, or if you're looking more free safety type because of the guys they've got, a more ball hawking type. But either way, I think secondary is going to be a big target for the Rams. I think, and defensive line as well. I think most of their focus will be on defense. Maybe interior offensive line. Maybe, but I don't know. Probably a young receiver somewhere, but they've got Kupp and Woods and Van Jefferson, who they drafted last year, who got hurt last year, but they were really high on him last year. They drafted Bryson Hopkins. They knew they were going to let Everett go. They've got Higbee there. Bryson Hopkins, I think, is going to have a big role in year 2, and I really liked him last year in a weak tight end class. I thought he might be the best of the tight ends. It was basically like a battle between, not that Cole Kmet's bad, but he wasn't my top. My top 3 guys were Adam Troutman, Bryson Hopkins, and I believe Harrison Bryant was the one out of FAU. But Kmet is a really solid all-around player who wasn't far off those guys, and Hunter Bryant of Washington as well. With that being said, that's the show for today. Tomorrow we're going to be deep diving the NFL Draft again because that's Thursday night. I might, when I get home from vocal rehearsal, I might jump on and just start streaming during the first round whenever I get home. It just depends on when I get home. So, but I will be streaming at the normal time tomorrow afternoon. So thank y'all for tuning in. If you like the show, please hit the like button. It's like if you want more, subscribe. Hit the bell icon next to subscribe. Turn notifications to all so you never miss anything. Please leave comments. Love you guys. See you tomorrow.